Peter, it has been said, boasted too much, prayed too little, acted too fast, followed too far away, and ended up denying his Lord. And when it dawned on him what he had done, the Bible says he wept bitterly. It was agonizing. And then he watched from a distance while his Lord manifests the commitment that Peter lacked. Peter said, "I'll die," and instead he denied. Jesus said, "I'll die, and God will be glorified in it." And he died. Most of us know the story doesn't end in Peter's denial, right? No, Jesus came to him after his resurrection. And what did he ask Peter? "Do you love me?" And Peter said, "Lord, you know I love you." And Jesus said, "Then go feed my sheep. Go be a lesson for my sheep. Go and serve. Go and discern." And Peter, one day, you will die for me. Peter learned that lesson. And he wrote this in his letter to the church, 1 Peter chapter 4, verse 8. "Above all," he said, "keep loving one another earnestly, because love covers a multitude of sins." You see, Peter understood that because the love of Christ covered his own denial. So look now at John 13 again. Jesus says, "I'm going to show you what love looks like. Love that serves, love that discerns, love that glorifies God, even in death, or maybe especially in death. A love that puts God's glory above all other things. A love that is willing to sacrifice self in order to be used by God. A love that is not like the denying love of Peter, but like the forgiving and restoring love that Jesus manifests even after His resurrection. It is a love unlike any other love. It is, in fact, the text says, and we'll back up now to the verses we jumped over, it's a brand new kind of love. Look what Jesus said. "A new commandment I give to you, that you love one another. Just as I have loved you, you also are to love one another. And by this kind of love, all people will know that you're my disciples, if you manifest that kind of love, the same kind of love that I've shown you and taught you. If you'll do that for one another, the people will know that you belong to me." Now it's interesting here, if you just think with me for a minute, he says this is new. And he calls it a commandment. He says this is a new commandment. And we should pause and say, well, in what sense is that new? Because it doesn't sound new to me. In fact, it sounds very, very old. It sounds just like the old commandment, which I dug up from the dusty pages of the Old Testament, even just this morning. Leviticus chapter number 19. It sounds just like this. "You shall not hate your brother in your heart, but you shall reason frankly with your neighbor, lest you incur sin because of him. You shall not take vengeance or bear a grudge against the sons of your own people, but you shall love your neighbor as yourself. I am the Lord." So what does Jesus mean when He calls this commandment to love new? Well, I think He means simply this. The bar has now been raised. The standard has now been set. And never has there been a love demonstrated like what you will see me demonstrate on the cross. That's new. And now He says, I'm telling you, that's the mark. That's the goal. That's the gold standard of love. Willing to give up everything for the glory of God.